Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. And I hope you're having a wonderful festive break. And I wonder who out there has had the time to even think about any New Year's resolutions for next year. Well, tonight we'll be joined by the wonderful Blair Palmer, who's a true expert at setting goals and achieving them. So she'll be giving us lots of lovely advice tonight. And I'll also be revealing the top resolutions that people make, and we'll be discussing a few of those as well. So unfortunately, we don't have Rihanna here tonight with the news, but we're going to go straight to our first guest, which is Blair Palmer, who's Chief Executive of That People Thing. Hello, Blair.
Hi.
Lovely to have you back.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, the last time you came on, you were part of a panel, weren't you?
I
We
was.
were trying to help a young man, giving him some advice about, his career and everything, his business plans. But tonight you're going to be helping us talk about resolutions and goal setting.
Absolutely.
But first of all, Blair, tell us, what is That People Thing? It's an unusual title.
Yeah. So we work with leaders, senior teams and boards in companies, helping them to achieve their goals, their big goals for their business.
And what made you want to go into that line of work?
I found it really inspiring. I used to be a journalist, actually, and I really enjoyed that. That was my first career. But I wanted to do something where I was helping other people.
Right.
And this is something where I feel like I'm doing that every day.
That could be a nice resolution for people, like to help others, because sometimes when we're too selfish, I'm not very happy. But let's read some. I'd like to go through some of the this is according to Wikipedia, by the way, some of the top resolutions, the most popular resolutions that people make for the new year. Do you want to share? Do you have any at the moment, or?
I haven't set any yet, but maybe I'll get inspiration as we talk.
Okay. I set a couple, a few last year. I've achieved 2 of them. One was to lose some weight, which I've done, and get fitter. I've done that already, and I still a little bit way to go. And the second one was to actually get into the driving thing, because I shared on the show, much to my shame, I had a license for like about 20 years and I never drove because I was a bit afraid. I was actually trying to trace why I was afraid of doing that, and I think it was something to do with my childhood, because so it's a bit morbid story anyway, but I'll tell you. My granddad was knocked down and killed by a lady driving really fast. I think I always had in the back of my mind I was afraid to knock someone down. But I thought, you know what, it's been 20 years, it's about time I got off my behind and started driving. So now I'm, driving to Wales and all sorts of things. So I'm quite happy. And it gives a real sense of confidence and achievement when you do something that you've been afraid to do for years.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely,
so those are the 2 that I achieved. The other one that I didn't achieve, maybe you can help me with. Learning a new language. I really wanted to do that, and I didn't do it this year.
What language do you want to learn?
Portuguese, because I have a lot of Portuguese friends.
Right.
So I'd like to, and sometimes they talk amongst themselves in Portuguese, and I just don't understand. Well, I understand bits, but it would be nice to.
So what's stopping you doing it?
I find it really boring, to be honest.
Learning, you find the actual experience
The
of
actual learning a language really boring.
Yeah.
I just get so bored, like after 5 minutes or 10 minutes of studying it, that it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there's a way that you can do it that isn't so boring, that maybe involves something a bit more social, like over a nice Portuguese meal, or even
that's a good idea.
Going out there for a couple of weeks and just having to speak Portuguese.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, because I do a challenge every Friday, to actually set a challenge for myself on the show in front of everyone that I will learn a new language, so that might help me as well.
Yeah. Well, I think you've just done it, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I did. Thanks, Blair, for that. Yeah. Okay, that will be one of my challenges, which I'll be filming with whichever teacher I choose. So
fine. That's excellent.
Anyway, enough about me. Should we get to what the top things are that people make resolutions about? Now, the first one, the obvious one, because everyone stuffed themselves silly on Christmas Day, probably, and all those things. Improve physical well-being, eat healthy food, lose weight, exercise more, eat better, drink less alcohol, quit smoking, and stop biting nails. So those are sort of like the physical aspect, and so many people want to join the gym come New Year's Day.
Yeah. I almost think that New Year's resolutions were invented by gyms to get people to join, get all their money in January, and then never have to work for it because people don't go in February.
Yeah,
that's the end of that.
It's sad how quickly people give up on it, isn't it?
It doesn't surprise me at all that those are the resolutions at the top of the list. And I think they're all of the same nature, aren't they? Because they're all about somehow being a better person because you look different. And you don't become a better person, a more likable person, more popular person, because you look different.
That's food for thought, Blair, isn't it? Very good. Okay, but let's go to, I'll show you a video if you want some fitness tips, because this is a challenge that I did early in the year in preparation for Race for Life. And let's just take a look, because there's some nice tips from our resident fitness expert, Jane Rafter. Hi everyone, I'm here with Jane Rafter today, our resident fitness expert on the Chrissy B Show and of JCW Fitness. And I'm preparing to do a 5K run for charity very soon. And Jane's going to be giving me some tips on how to prepare, what to do on the day and things like that. Also diet and breathing and stuff like that. Yeah. But also if you guys at home want to actually take up running for yourselves, not just for competition or for charity, but something that you'd like to take up. So Jane's going to be helping us out. So hi Jane, how are you?
Hi Chrissy, I'm fine, thank you. It's a bit windy, isn't it? It's actually a nice day for running, we were lucky.
So you're going to be giving us some tips, but how should someone start preparing, first of all, if they want to take up running?
I think if you've never run before, it's really important that you do some training. I wouldn't advise turning up for a race and running from cold. You know, you're more likely to injure yourself. So do take some time to train and prepare. But what you should do when you're training is have a strategy, say over a period of weeks, where you're building up to a particular point that you want to be at for the race. So you might not necessarily run a whole 5K, say for example, but you might say, well, I want to run 3 minutes and walk 1. So you might start your training where you walk 2 minutes and run 2 minutes, and then build it up to running for 3 and walking for 1. But you need to graduate that over your, say like 6 weeks, I would say. Chrissy and I are just warming up for the race. We've done a 10-minute power walk with 2 or 3 short bursts of slow jogging just to warm up the body. And I'm just going to take Chrissy through some dynamic stretches and movements now, because you've got to warm up the joints and the muscles. Okay, so if we take the legs wide and we just go side to side. So a dynamic stretch is where you're stretching the muscles, but you're moving all the time. And really your warm-up should reflect what you're going to do, the activity you're going to do. So we need to keep moving. That's lovely. Let's just do another couple. And then if you come to centre and just lift one knee and drop down into a lunge position and bring it back. We're going to lift the other knee, drop into a lunge. So can you feel how that's working your thighs? Take a lunge, lift and down. Just pick up one leg and then press your hips forwards. So you have your knees quite close together and you push the hip bones forward. Can you feel a pull there in the front of the leg? Exactly. That's great. And we'll change legs. What I would say, Chrissy, is you shouldn't do these stretches cold. You should only really stretch when you've done your warm-up, when you've done your walking, a little bit of running, some dynamic movements. That's when you do your static stretches. Yeah, perfect. That looks good. So we'll start with our power walk, and the pace of this should be quite fast. So you should feel that if you had to do this for a long time, you would definitely get warm, you'd get out of breath. And in fact, it's not much slower than a jog when you do your power walk. So let your arms swing and take big strides through the legs. And then start to pick it up a bit, because we're going to move towards going into a short run phase. Okay, so we'll start to go faster and then start to jog. And your breathing should be nice and relaxed in line with your movements. I personally like to breathe in, 3, 2, 3, in, 2, 3, 2, 3, in. So you get into a rhythm that flows with your body, and try and relax the shoulders as well. That looks really nice, Chris. Does that feel comfortable?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and this is a good pace, and you'll find that when you start the race, a lot of people will kick off quicker than this, but this is fast enough. This is all you need to do. And if you're new to running, this might be enough for you, so you might want to break into your power up. Can you see that I didn't really slow down? It's less exertive, but it's not much difference in speed.
So Jen, I've had some great tips there from you for running and preparing for a race, and also if I just want to take up running in general. Now, how about footwear? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's really important that you have the right shoes to run in. And you know what's interesting? It's better to have a mediocre price range new running shoe than a really old, battered, expensive shoe. Yeah, because sometimes even if the shoes look good on the outside, the internal supports can wear out. I always like to wear clothes that has what they call sweat wicking fabric, which means that you don't get sweat patches, because then if you do slow down and start walking and you're wet, that can be really uncomfortable. So your top's right, is that this kind of lycra is comfortable, and I do recommend that, and obviously something really stretchy that's not going to dig in, and layers. If you've got a top that you can tie around your waist, but I would think you're better off knowing that for the first 10 minutes you might be a bit chilly, but you won't be by the time you get, and if you are cold, you're not going fast enough, you need to walk faster or run faster. You shouldn't be cold.
Oh, Jane, thank you so much. That was brilliant.
It's a pleasure.
And
Good luck,
more
Chrissy.
Information about Jane, what's the website, Jane?
www.jcwfitness.co.uk.
Thanks very much.
Good luck, Chrissy.
Thank you. Okay, so there you have it. Some nice tips there for getting your fitness things going, and so hopefully you will get fitter this new year that's coming up. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to be talking about more of the resolutions after this break, so do stay tuned.
It's the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and we are speaking about setting resolutions that you can actually stick to. Now, we've spoken about obviously the most obvious resolution that people set, which is obviously getting fitter, losing weight and all that stuff. But also the other popular ones are improving mental well-being too, thinking positive, laughing more often and enjoying life.
Yes. Now these ones I can get into.
Okay.
I really like the idea that you will change your mindset and then you'll act differently. I think people think that they can act differently without changing how they think, but it's how we think that drives our behaviour. So the stuff that is about having a different attitude, a different state of mind, I really love those.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people really do get bogged down with working so hard, so much. I mean, you must know, because you're very busy with your career and everything, and you have like a young child as well, so you're very busy. So I think sometimes it's hard for people to kind of relax and just enjoy life and just take a break sometimes. Yeah. So stuff to do with having more fun. I mean, that's really motivating. It's the opposite of lose weight, because lose weight is all about denying yourself pleasure. All the things you love you can't do anymore. But the enjoying yourself more, that of course you can stick to those resolutions. He just doesn't like fitness. Okay, now obviously one that is very popular for people to improve their finances, to get out of debt. I was actually speaking to someone before the show that she set a resolution for herself that she would get out of debt in this year. And I said, so did you manage it? She said, no, I was too busy enjoying myself. So she's still quite in the red and we're overdraft.
Yeah, you've got to make sure that your resolutions don't conflict. If you've got one that's have more fun and one that's save money, then they might not work too well together.
So I think you can do both, because I think there is a way of getting out of debt, but also maybe you won't do the things that you'd love to do, but I think at least for a while to cut back a bit.
And maybe you can find ways to do the things you love without spending lots of money.
That's true. You could do that. Okay, so also this one that you can really help our viewers with, Blair. A lot of people want to improve their career, perform better at their current job, get a better job, or establish their own business. Now, what advice would you give to people that say, okay, do you know what, I've had enough with my job this year, I hate it, or maybe I've been unemployed long enough, I want to start a new job, something that a goal for their career. What advice would you give them to make sure they actually stuck to their goal?
So I think that they should use a bit of time before they set the goal in reflection, because there are lots of reasons why you might not like your job, and some of them are to do with you. So if you just go to another job, you're still going to be there, and all the reasons you didn't like the last job might come with you.
That's true.
So I think you should reflect about what is it, how do I need to be in order to really enjoy the work that I do? And is there something about the way that I am that makes me not enjoy this job, or makes me not enjoy this career? Having done that reflection and thinking about, okay, what are the things that I wanted to change about my own mindset and attitude, then I'd be really enthusiastic about people thinking, where are my passions? What do I love to do? What would I do even if I wasn't going to be paid?
Yeah, exactly.
And make a business out of that.
That's really important, because I had a friend actually, she she was kept jumping from job to job, and the same thing, like in the same field, which was childcare. So she'd always come with the excuse, "Oh, I left my job," and I said, "Why have you left it again?" "Oh, because I didn't get along with the people there." I said, "But you'll always come across people in the workplace that you maybe not get along with. It's just life. There's some people that you do, there's some people that you don't." And this was a pattern for ages. And then when we had a good chat about it, she actually didn't have that passion for childcare. She just chose that career because she thought she said it was quite easy to get into. The exams weren't very hard for her. So she became comfortable with that. But what she really wanted to do was beauty, something to do with beauty and makeup. So then eventually she started to pursue that, and now she's happy and she's managed to stick to one thing.
Exactly.
So you really do have to love what you do, and not just, because sometimes it's maybe the parents that kind of persuade you, or in some cases force you to study a certain subject because maybe all the family's they've been doctors or lawyers and stuff like that. But you really need to do something that you enjoy and you wake up excited about, or else it's just going to be so boring.
And I think that that's a mindset that says, well, it's not possible to do a job you love. You know, what you do at work, you just do for the money. And then if you want the things that you love to do, you do outside of work. I really don't believe that. And if you look at most really successful people, they didn't believe it either.
Yeah,
that's how they came to be successful.
Yeah, that's true. Now, in terms of starting your own business, what advice could you give our viewers? Because that's quite a scary thing, especially if you've never had your own business before. You're always used to working for someone, sort of having your time fixed, 9 to 5:30, and then you go and you have your breaks. For someone starting new, fresh, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I think first you have to recognise that it is going to be a business. And business involves a lot of things that aren't doing the job. So let's say you wanted to set up a jewellery business. I think a lot of people think they're going to spend all the time making jewellery. They're not. They're going to spend all the time drumming up business for people who want to buy jewellery and doing the books and, you know, all of the marketing and all of that. The making the jewellery is going to be a small part of it, a lovely part. But, you know, you have to recognise you're running a business. And you have to want to do that as well as make the jewellery or whatever it is. You have to be realistic about what it is. Yeah. So that's one thing. Also, have a little bit of financial support, but not too much. If you've got too much, if you've got too much financial support, you won't make it happen because you won't have to.
So you get used to kind of.
Yeah, well, you know, if you've got, I mean, not that people have this, but you know, if you've got £100,000 behind you, you don't need to make any money for the first few years. So, surprise, surprise, you don't make any money. So that's the second thing. And I think the third thing, have a worst case scenario plan.
Okay.
If it does all go really, really wrong, know what you'll do. Don't make it too attractive, the worst case scenario, because again, you know, you'll fall back on that. But at least know what you would do. And then as long as you know that the worst case scenario is taken care of, then you can really focus on making it a success.
And definitely not to give up as well, even if it does all go pear-shaped. But
it always
just
goes
get some
pear-shaped. Anyone who's run a business,
I love that.
Well, no, it always goes pear-shaped at some point. Everyone who's run a business has nearly lost it. Sometimes they have lost it over and over again. That's how you learn. But if you really believe in it, you get back up and you carry on.
That's so refreshing to know, though, isn't it? Because sometimes maybe you're at home, you want to start your own business, and you're thinking, oh, but you know, maybe I won't be good enough for it, and it's all going wrong, so maybe I'm not cut out to have my own business, which isn't true. It's just that loads of people go through it. You just have to. It's just for you to challenge yourself and find ways to make it work.
Every business goes through hard times, especially at the beginning. And then, you know, you think you're doing great, and then something happens, you lose a big client or something, and you're back at the beginning again. But, you know, it's like anything, you've got to be determined, and it's those things that teach you what you're made of.
Yeah, definitely. Great advice. Okay, so another one is to improve education, improve grades, learn something new, as in my case. Study often, read more books, improve talents. Okay, now I think the education one is scary, especially if you've already, like, you're not school age anymore or college age anymore. Actually going back to education could be a pretty daunting thing for some people.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really worries a lot of people is exams. I think most people have had a bad experience of exams, and they don't mind, you know, going to the class, but the thing that really freaks them out
Exams
is the
nice,
exam at the
they?
end. No. The whole thing of being tested is not very pleasant.
It's horrible.
Yeah, but you know, it's like any of these things. That's if you achieve that, if you overcome that fear, you feel so proud of yourself. So whatever grade you get, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you faced your demons.
That's right.
And you went ahead anyway.
Yeah.
And I think even more than the qualification, the fact that you found out what you were made of is the thing that makes all the difference. That's what people are so proud of at the end.
Still scary. I think when I was at uni, I picked, because we had to pick different subjects, always pick the subject that had some coursework in there that you get graded. So at least if I could find one that was 100%, I would do that, even if it was something that I didn't really like.
Well, that's right. I mean, there are courses like that.
Yeah.
This idea that because it's scary, you shouldn't do it. Of course, you know from all the things that you've done in your life, there are always going to be scary things. If it's scary, all that means is that you're extending your comfort zone. You know, the stuff that's within the comfort zone is comfortable, so it's not scary. Outside of that comfort zone is all the scary stuff. But if you never venture out of it, you won't grow. So if you're doing something scary, what you know for sure is that you're growing.
Great advice, that is. Yeah, because it's so easy to stay in the comfort zone, isn't it? It's so comfortable.
Easy, but pretty boring.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? Yeah, because you get stuck in life and nothing
You don't have
happens.
any adventures. You don't have any stories to tell. People ask you how you are. Well, same as I was last time I saw you, nothing's happened. Whereas actually, you know, every time you extend that comfort zone out, you try something outside, then the comfort zone grows and grows, and you've got great stories, and a great story of your life is created that way.
Definitely. Okay. So another one just before we go to the break. This one is become more organised. Well, it's kind of grouped together. Reduce stress. Be less grumpy. That's a nice one.
Yes, I like that.
Manage time. Be more independent. Perhaps watch less television. Play fewer sitting down video games. I'm not sure why they've grouped all these together because they're quite different, some of them. But being less grumpy, I think that's quite a nice one, because we can end up being grumpy with people, not meaning to, but because of stress, perhaps.
Yeah,
and it's not nice,
and lots
we
of
affect
judgment.
Other people.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes you, well, there's lots of things that make people grumpy, but I think, you know, it's our attitudes. It's our attitudes towards other people, the assumptions we make about them, and the sense often that we're trapped by our lives, and that we're the victims of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think be less grumpy is a good start. I think a resolution you're more likely to achieve is one that is about taking more control of your life.
Right.
Because when you take more control, then you're not the victim anymore. Then you're creating your life, and then I think you feel a bit less grumpy, a bit less trapped.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to a quick break, Blair, but you're going to stay with us because we're going to be talking about a few more resolutions and also showing you a very interesting video from a very successful CEO. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show. Now, just before we play our next video, let's just run some stats by you. Now, how many people do you think actually stick to their resolutions? Now, according to a study by the University of Bristol, now this involved 3,000 people, apparently 88% of those who set New Year resolutions failed, despite the fact that 52% of the study's participants were confident of success at the beginning. Now, it says here that men achieved their goal 22% more often when they engaged in some kind of goal setting. And women succeeded 10% more when they made their goals public, as I did earlier about the Portuguese, when they made their goals public and got support from their friends. Interesting stats.
Well, they're really interesting stats. So most people fail at their resolutions, but what I really like about those stats is that half of people pretty much don't even believe that they're going to succeed. So I just sort of wonder why they're bothering. So I really like that. I really like that number. I think if you don't even believe it at the time you set it, you should probably give it a miss this year.
It's true. It's just putting that extra pressure. And it's like it becomes a joke in the end, doesn't it? Oh yeah, I set my resolutions and I didn't stick to them. And then all you've actually done is reinforce in your mind that you don't stick to these things, and then it makes it even harder next year. So it might be better to not to do it at all. So only set your resolutions, guys, at home if you're really determined to stick to them and you really believe you're going to actually do them. All right, so let's take a look at this video with ex-CEO of Procter & Gamble and now CEO of American Tobacco about what he had to say about setting goals and achieving your dreams.
Today I'm in central London outside Public's house, about to go inside and meet James and Morgan Lafferty. Now James Lafferty is a very successful CEO and businessman of multinational corporations, and he's going to be talking to us about how to climb the ladder. Let's go inside and meet them. How did it all start out? What was your beginnings?
My beginning was very simple. All I wanted to do was be a teacher and make very little money and be happy. And I had a corporate fitness business that I was helping companies. This was in the early 80s when the corporate fitness boom was taking off. And I started teaching fitness classes for P&G executives, or basically teaching overweight executives how to lose weight. He's making all these comments. He says to me, "You ought to do what I do." And I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm in brand management." And I thought, brand management, what is it? And he explained it, and I liked it. So I applied to P&G in brand management, and I got turned down. I got a nice letter from them, the first paragraph, "We really like you. You're wonderful. You have unique experiences, but we don't see a good fit." And so I challenged the company. I wrote a letter back, and I said, "Interviewing is not an art, it's a science. Or it's not a science, it's an art. And I would like to be given another shot." And they called me back for a second set of interviews, and lo and behold, on that one I got an offer, and I started in marketing at the bottom, called a brand assistant in the U.S. in 1985. And from there, stayed in the U.S., I became a brand manager, and then I went overseas in 1991, and I've been gone ever since. And then it was just gradually through the marketing and then into general management. If I had listened to P&G's first letter, I wouldn't be where I am today. You wouldn't know me. But you got to fight, and you got to say, "I want this," and it's a visceral need, and that's what you're looking for. People call it different names. I call it desire. Other people call it fire in the belly. Other people call it perseverance. Whatever you call it, this is the most important thing of all. That's the intangible. And it's funny, when you go and interview with CEOs around the world, that's all they ask about. They don't ask about, do you know how to market this or what that. They basically focus on those attitudinal skills, because the rest is teachable. I can teach a young person about anything, but I can't teach them to have a fire in the gut.
Often people say you need to have your set goal, where you're going in life, and know your direction, whereas you've changed and you've gone in different directions. You kind of grabbed your opportunities. Do you think that that's a very important thing to teach people, or if in being successful in their life, to always grab the opportunity? Or do you think having quite a straight direction set out in your mind, in your imagination, do you think that's important?
Let me ask you a question. Are you doing exactly what you thought you would be doing 10 years ago? No. And I don't know of anybody who says yes to that question. This is a philosophical point. I don't believe at all in this, you have to know exactly where you want to go and all that. Life is serendipitous. And it's more about taking advantage of the opportunities that are put in front of you. No one ends up doing exactly what they thought they were going to be doing. And I never wanted to be marketing. You know why I didn't want to be a brand manager? Because I didn't even know the field existed. When you're a kid growing up, it's doctor, lawyer, astronaut, pilot, the standard list. I wanted to be an astronaut. Why? Because Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and that was cool. But when you start to be exposed to what the world puts out there, you end up seeing other opportunities. And so I'm a big believer in serendipity. It doesn't mean that you have no direction, no goals, but writing things down on a piece of paper and saying that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't believe in that, and I don't believe that the most successful people have done that. Stephen Jobs didn't say, "I want to start a computer company." This is not where people were. And that's not where the most successful people are. That what the most successful people are is they believe in serendipity, and when opportunities come, they take them. Like in my case, a brand manager says to me, "Try what I do." And that was a day that changed my life.
My dad, being kind of the head of different companies and such, has moved him around. So with that, I kind of went to different schools in Asia and in Europe and in Africa. And yeah, so I've gotten to experience quite a bit.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you find that? Was that difficult, having such jumps from different places, or was it quite interesting even though you were quite young?
I think it could be found difficult, but growing up around the world, literally moving every couple of years, it's kind of instilled in you after a while. So now I'm that kind of person where I'd rather move than stay still.
You found that working your way from the bottom to the top is actually how it should really be done, because you've got hands-on experience and you really learned genuinely what to do. What's the most valuable sort of skill or lesson that you've learned from the beginning of your career so far?
I've learned that it's really important to be able to work with different kind of people, to kind of step into their roles at an early start, to understand, you know, why they do what they do the way they do it, and how how is your role helping, you know, your brand or your company, and just kind of trying to find your place and understand where you add value.
What would you say to people who need to sort of get that fire back in their belly?
You've got to take risks. Secondly, get off of the entitlement mentality that I will want a job the way I want it, in the city I want it, in the situation I want it. You know what? You might have to move. And this is the way it goes. And the third is you don't give up. You keep pounding away, because you never know when that door that does open is going to be the one that you're going to step through. I mean, I know they get turned down. I got turned down for lots of jobs. You keep going at it, and you keep pounding away.
Well, that was really inspiring. What did you think, Blair?
Yeah, well, that's what they sound like. That's what CEOs sound like. Nothing is a problem. They overcome any obstacle in their way. That's how they got to the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I like what he was talking about with the opportunities, and because sometimes we may kind of get stuck in our ways of thinking that I'm going to do this and it's going to go exactly this way. But it's true, we do have to be flexible sometimes and think, okay, because it's true, I'm not doing what I thought I would be doing 10 years ago. Nowhere near. I never thought I'd be on TV. But when the opportunity came up, I grabbed it.
Yeah.
Because it is helping me reach my ultimate goal, which is basically to help people in some way. Yeah. So I'm doing what I love, but not in the thing that I thought I would be doing it. So, but it's just nice. It's exciting that way.
Yeah. You have to keep your eyes open.
Yeah.
You never really know where the next opportunity is going to come from. And if you're so fixed on your goal, then you don't notice the stuff that is passing you by while you're trying to achieve this goal that you may or may not achieve in any case.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, there's something very interesting, just before we go to the break. You're going soon, Blair?
Oh.
It's Chris Brown after the break, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So it's just something very interesting that I was reading as well. Now, they're saying here that the nature of New Year's resolutions has changed during the last decades, with many resolutions being more superficial and appearance-oriented than in previous times. So listen to this. At the end of the 19th century, a typical teenage girl's New Year's resolution was focused on these kind of things. Good works. She wanted to become less self-centered. She wanted to become more helpful, a more diligent worker, and to improve her internal character. Now, what do you think it is nowadays?
Wow.
Take a guess. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so body image, health, diet, and desired possessions were rarely mentioned. At the end of the 20th century, the typical teenage girl's resolution is focused on good looks. She wants to improve her body, her hairstyle, her makeup, and her clothing. So it looks like we're becoming more superficial nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, our resolutions are a reflection of the society that we live in, aren't they? And the values of those societies. So our values today, you know, maybe we should be looking at that and asking ourselves, why is that so important to not just young people, there's so many people. But I also wonder if those Victorian young people were more likely to keep their resolutions because maybe they believed in them deep down in their heart.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, how can you really believe deep down in your heart that the solution to everything is to lose a few pounds?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, really. And let me just read it, just before we go, let me just read it like some of the other popular ones according to Wikipedia. We've spoken about being less grumpy. Taking a trip, volunteering to help others, which is a great one. Getting along better with people, improving social skills, making new friends, which is a great one. Spending quality time with family members, which we kind of touched on before. This one's obviously a very popular one. Settle down, get engaged, get married, have kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's a goal you can definitely set in January. It'll for sure happen by December. Yeah, definitely.
Could do, you never know. Let me just quickly, rushing me to go to break. Try foreign foods, pray more, be closer to God, and be more spiritual. Those are the ones according to Wikipedia. Blair, thank you so much for being on the show again. It's lovely having you.
Yeah, good
and I hope we've had some great tips for our viewers tonight. So after the break, we'll be joined by Chris Brown with the Self-Development Clinic. So don't go away.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show. Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happiest side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and now we're in the Self-Development Clinic with Chris Brown. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chrissy.
Did you have a lovely Christmas day?
Do you know what? I had a great Christmas day, obviously, because it's my birthday, and you know, what else, at the end of the day. So I knew it was asked that point, but yeah, I had a great one,
good.
And what I'm doing, I'm really excited about this year. At the end of the day, because it's time for a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and like most of us, this is a time where people start saying, "I want to do this, I want to do that." Much to what we were just talking about just now, So, did you have a good one?
Yes, I did. It was really good. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant!
I controlled my eating as well. Remember, I said to you guys that I refuse to put on weight this Christmas, definitely, and I haven't done.
You stuck to it.
I stuck to it. Yes.
Stuck to it. It's funny you say that, because how many people actually stick to it at the end of the day?
Yeah.
How many people stick to points they say, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that." So, pat on the back.
Well, actually, our viewers don't have an excuse either, because we had a show on how not to put weight on over Christmas. So hopefully you guys follow the tips as well, like I did.
Well, I must say about that anyway. I'm more for the cakes, the chicken, everything else. So, that wasn't for me, that one.
You put on a bit of weight then?
Not really. I think I'm all right. Have I?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay. Oh, that's the training. That's the weight.
Right,
okay. All right. What we're talking about is little things that other achievers do, high achievers do. To get their targets and get their goals. And it's funny because as I was looking at, as I was talking about earlier on about goals, and we've all got different views on how we actually get there and what we do to get there, and those are set goals. Now, just a while ago, talking about it, saying, well, what have you done? Would you have thought that way 10 years ago? And very true. Many things you do, but for some reason, behind it, underneath, there is a parallel. Because it's like setting out a map and having a direction. Yes, you do go in other directions to get there, but you do actually get to that point where you find you might be doing something completely different, but the elements of that goal is within there.
Like I was saying, because my thing was always to help people, but I didn't know what avenue I'd be doing that.
Exactly.
Because I was working for a charity,
right.
And then I started to grab the opportunity for TV. So still doing what I want to do, just in a way I never imagined to do it.
Did you have any thoughts about TV in the past at all?
Do you know what? I think when I was younger, I thought it would be nice to.
See?
But for the wrong reasons. It was just like, oh, I want to be on TV, I want to be famous kind of thing. But I think those were kind of like selfish reasons in the past.
Right.
But now, obviously, it's not about sort of being on TV and being popular. Now it's with a goal to help others.
Well,
that's interesting you said that. You made me think,
it's interesting because it's true. You'll find that most people, there was a thought somewhere along the line and they kind of projected that. And obviously, as a child, it was selfish reasons there at the time. But with maturity, that goal has been fulfilled, but in a better way, helping others. There we go. There we go. Let's talk about some of the tips of others. If I said to you 5 a day, what does it make you think of straight away?
Fruit and veg.
That's it. Fruit and veg, right? But this time we're not talking about fruit and veg. 5 a day. It's a way of planning your days ahead. Planning it the night before, working out, 5 things that you believe that you can do to actually help you get closer to that. Shall I say that word again? Goal. Yeah. Right? 5 things that will help you get close to that. So it might be simple things. It's like I might say, well, tonight I'm going to organize myself. So tomorrow I'm going to make sure I'm more organized. Or I'm going to make sure my workspace is better. Or it could be things like just prioritizing or clearing the space, little things that will add towards that goal that you're actually aiming for at the end of the day. So that will be your 5 a day. Now, most people think 5 a day automatically. Fruit and veg, right? Okay.
Could be part of it.
It could
to be healthy.
Actually, I want to be healthy.
Focus more on what they're doing.
Over Christmas now and get back to it. But at the end of the day, 5 a day is getting 5 things that you can actually do each day towards your goal. And just chipping away, because sometimes we make them too big or too elaborate and we think this, that and the other. But these little differences, and it plans your day, maps it out a lot better at the end of the day. You know, it's really funny because they say that if you do that before the night, just before you go to bed, the thoughts that actually come into your mind actually spur you ahead. You know, sort of subconscious will actually help you kick into those 5 that you can do throughout the day. Yeah. So 5 a day, all right?
5 a day.
Not fruit
I
and veg,
remember that.
all right? Now, okay. Here's another one as well, and it's funny because I remember watching this program some time back, and it's about doing the things that others do not want to do. right? And we're talking about a lot of high achievers who have done this. A lot of people who have been successful in areas that, same again, that they thought they wouldn't have done, right? And done other jobs completely different and became very successful. And usually it's sort of service jobs where other people do not want to do it, right? I remember particularly a guy who was making, what was it? It works out to be 70 million for the year, right? And guess what it was? Scrap metal. A lot of people might think, I don't want to go and do scrap metal or whatever to get started. Now I'm just using that as an example. It could be anything completely different, but usually the things that other people do not want to do, find out what they are, do them, persist, work out what it is at the end of the day.
Good point.
It really is a point. Sometimes I look and I see certain jobs and I think, wow, if they weren't doing that, then what would happen?
Yeah.
And everybody uses those services at the end of the day. So it's kind of thinking outside the box at the end of the day. Do the things that others do not want to do.
I hope our viewers have got their thinking caps on now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. Remember, we mentioned this one quite a few times and we actually debated about it as well, the 3 weeks, excuse me, the 3 weeks, So we're talking about, right, to get rid of habits, replacing them with new habits instead, right? 21 days at the end of the day to change a habit. Right, now we got to think about, are we being productive in the habits that we got now? And if you see that these habits that we've actually got now are non-productive, we've got to be sincere with ourselves and realize, well, what do I need to do about this? Because it's not getting me anywhere. So I've got to change that. I've got to start thinking of habits that are productive and replace them with those habits. Now, some people it might be, well, you mentioned earlier on about somebody spending, you know? Now, what if you got into a habit of thinking, if I could save more than I actually spend all the time, wouldn't that make a difference? Space of 6 months or so, that'll make a difference already. Or what if I cut down on what I drink or whatever, as usual? Would that make a difference? Family and yourself. It could be many little things. I'm just picking up a few, but if you thought about it, you think, well, what are the habits that I've got that I'm not being productive? And how more productive can I be? Now we think about, we're starting the year already. Here we go, yeah? So let's think about it as well. All right, and here's one. Be intentional. Be intentional. We spend a lot of time doing things and going wherever the wave goes and says, well, I'm going to go this way, I'll do this, which sometimes works out all right. It depends how flexible we are, or I go the other way.
That's a good thing, actually, to a point to make, because we're talking about looking for opportunities and maybe not sticking exactly to where you want to go. But on the other hand, you also have to watch out for distractions. Exactly. So maybe there's something does come along that isn't going to help you. It's not an opportunity. It could be a trap.
Yeah.
So you really have to watch out for that and make sure that if you are going to sort of steer off course in a way, that it is something that's going to benefit you and not something that's going to drag you back. Drag
you the other way. But if you're actually intentional about where you're going and what you want to do, you should be able to be more focused and recognize those ones at the same time. I thought it was very good about saying about the actual goal and sticking with that. To some point, it's a case of, well, if I'm pretty dog-minded about this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, you are going to miss opportunities along the way because you just planned it your way to do it. Have that goal, but be flexible in that sense. But most things, be intentional. You think about it. You get up in the morning, intentional. Let me put my teeth back in. Intentional, all right? Right. I just heard myself saying that. You get up in the morning, you get up, you go to work, right? You've got an intention behind that. I mean, it might even be actual job. It might be lifestyle behind that, why you're doing what you're doing. Some people, they are actually happy. I get up Monday morning, you know, it's a real blessing. Get up and do the things that you want to do at the end of the day. But you're still intentional about everything that you do. So have a purpose behind what you do and why you're doing it.
Not just going with the flow and just waking up and say, I'll just see where this day takes me, but have even a daily goal for your life.
Daily goal, purposes. And that goes back to the 5 days as well. That helps towards that, you know. Another area we was talking about achievers, and the last one is commitment. Commitment is like a binding agreement, but do you really actually make those commitments and stick with it? What about yourself as well? Could you actually make a binding agreement with yourself and say, I'm making a commitment to you, if you're speaking to yourself, and I'm going to stick with this regardless what? You know, that commitment is one, it builds self-esteem as well as your self-respect as well, and knowing that you actually achieved, I'm committed to what I'm doing. That way, nobody can actually take you off track as well. You're going to hit your goal.
That's great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Do have a wonderful New Year's Eve.
And you as well.
Obviously, please, everybody, stay safe. Make sure you think about where you're going. Book your cabs, ladies, if you need to beforehand. And have a wonderful celebration. And I do hope that, we'll be back again with our viewers in the new year as well. So do have a lovely one. And if you want to get in touch with me at any point, don't forget you can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv if you have a suggestion for a show that you'd like to see covered, a topic that you'd like to see covered on the show, Or if you'd just like to ask me a question, I'm very, very happy to answer all emails personally. And if you want more information about the show, of course, you can visit the website chrissybshow.tv. Bye-bye for now.